going, guys? It's Tyler from ARM, and today we are going to be installing our S55 intake on our BMW M3. So this is for the F80 platform, and it'll work for the M3, M4. It should be only about an hour install. It's not too bad. It should be pretty straightforward. And then we're going to walk you through what comes in this kit. The improvements for installing this kit would be you get better turbo spool, better intake noise, and just more power overall. So let's take you through what's in the box. All right, so in this kit, it includes 2 heat shields for both sides. It also includes the silicone runner pipes. So these are where we're gonna actually get the air from the turbo, or from the intake to the turbo. We have our aluminum connectors. We have 2 of these. Let me get it out of the plastic. So we got 2 of those intake connectors. You have our weather stripping here. So this is gonna go around the outside of the heat shield to protect your car from just scratches and stuff. And then this is going to go on the inside of the heat shield, basically to protect the pipes that run through it from scratches. You have our clamps, our CNC machine piece, and our nuts and bolts. And then inside here we have our red filters. They have the black plastic caps with the red filter. Pretty stylish. It'll look great in your engine bay. Alright, so to start this install, the first thing we're going to do is remove our carbon strut base, and to do that we're going to have to remove these plastic covers on both sides. To start, we're going to remove this pop rivet here, and then we're going to make our way over to these 3 bolts there, and those are going to require a 10mm socket, and they don't actually get removed, you just twist them to unlock. So we're going to start then by pulling out this pop rivet. You just slide your tool under there, lift up, and that comes out, and then we'll take our 10mm socket and we'll twist counterclockwise on these 3 bolts here. And once those are unlocked, you'll be able to just take this tray and pop it right out. All right, and then you're just gonna repeat the process on the driver's side here, and then this is just gonna lift right out. So then we're gonna start by removing these 3 on the carbon strut. So these are gonna be 13mm sockets. So you're just gonna crack these 3 loose. And now you're gonna move over onto your passenger side and do the same exact thing. 13mm socket, just remove these 3 bolts. Now after you've done the driver's side and the passenger side, you're gonna move to the front middle here. It's just gonna be these 2 bolts. Again, a 13. All right, and then the final step is to remove this 10mm bolt there that's connected to the coolant reservoir. All right, so the next step is gonna be just taking these rubber covers and lifting them over your carbon brace. You're gonna do the same thing on both sides, and then it should just pull right out. All right, so now the next step is we're just gonna pop off this engine cover to give access to this sensor a little bit easier. And we already have our ARM silicone charge pipes on there, so it'll give us a little bit more access. So you're just gonna pull up and forward. All right, so next we're gonna remove the MAF sensor. So you're just gonna push in on this little clip on the top and then pull straight up, just like that. All right, so next we're gonna remove this clamp that's on the intake here. This is a 6mm clamp. Next, we're gonna pull off this hose, disconnecting it from the airbox. So next, we're gonna be removing the airbox. You just have to pull this out. And there you got your stock airbox removed on the passenger side. All right, so next we're gonna be removing our next 6mm clamp. It's down under on the passenger side over here. What we're gonna be using to remove it is this is probably about a 1-foot-long extension with a wobble tip on a 6mm deep socket. All right, so now you're just gonna pull this off after you've undone that clamp, and it comes off really easily. And now just like that, you removed your passenger side airbox. So now the next step is gonna be moving on to the driver's side to remove the driver's side airbox. So now you're gonna be doing the same thing over on the driver's side. Is you're gonna be pulling out this MAF sensor. You're just gonna push in and pull up. After you remove your MAF sensor, you're gonna wanna head over to this coolant line and just pull it out from these clips here. Just gonna lift it up, and that gives you access to remove your driver's side intake. So now the next step is going to be to remove this clamp, which is near the middle of the engine. It's going to be an 8mm socket. So you're just going to put it on and remove it like normal. All right, so now after you've undone that clamp, the next step is going to be to remove this vacuum line. It's going to be pretty simple. You just press it on both sides and pull up. And then you're going to take your stock airbox and just lift it straight out. And now you've removed your driver's side airbox. All right, so next we're gonna be removing our mass airflow sensors. We're gonna start with the driver's side, and it's held in by 2 T20 Torx screws. So you're just gonna remove both of those, and then your mass sensor should come out. All right, so after you've removed those two T20 Torx bits, you're gonna pull out your mass airflow sensor. All right, so now we're gonna take our mass sensor and install it into our driver's side pipe here. So as you can see, this arrow's pointing, it can only go in one direction. So if you try to put it in this way, it's not gonna fit. You can only put it in one way. But before installing it, you're gonna wanna take a little bit of O-ring lube or just some engine oil and rub it around your O-ring just so you pop it in a little easier and you don't have to worry about any dry rot or anything like that. So then you're gonna take this and you're just gonna pop it right in. It should be a real snug fit. And then you're gonna take our included bolts and washers. So these are gonna be 3 30-seconds, and it's gonna require an Allen key for installation. So then for this inside circle, you're gonna need 13 inches of this small weather stripping. So you're just gonna cut it down to 13 inches and then wrap it around the inside. And then for the back end, which is the one opposite of this bracket, you're gonna need 15 inches of the small weather stripping. All right, so now that you've gotten the small weather stripping cut, we can now cut the larger weather stripping. So you're gonna need a 13.5-inch long piece for the top of the heat shield. So now after you've got your weather stripping installed, you're gonna wanna take the driver's side and you're gonna put it right down in here. So as you can see, this little bracket lines up with this wall here, and there's a little hole inside there's a little hole there that you're gonna take your nut and it'll go right in there. If you need to, you can adjust this little bracket just by bending it to get it to perfect fitment. However you need to get it fit. So then also as just a note, the bottom of this heat shield is gonna line up with the plastic air intake runner. You're gonna wanna set it inside there. So this is actually gonna be like the trickiest part of the install. So it's gonna be getting that little bolt in that we explained earlier. We already have ours installed, but I'm gonna give you a little visual representation here. So you're gonna wanna take it and put it in from this side. So if you see this little hole right here, you're gonna wanna take your washer and your bolt, put them together, and feed this in and pop it through. It's a little bit easier to not have the heat shield there. You just poke it through and then install the heat shield, and that'll make it a little bit easier for you. And once that's installed, you're gonna take your nut and just screw it on in and then tighten it down. So you're gonna take the long hose, which is gonna be the driver's side, and you're gonna take this little CNC fitting, and you see this small little hose that sticks out there, you're gonna wanna just stick it in there, like so. And then take the small clamp that was included with the kit, which is gonna be an 8mm, and then you're just gonna wanna tighten down the CNC fitting into the hose. All right, so then you're gonna wanna take one of your 103/95 clamps that is included in the kit, and when installing this, make sure that this is angled upwards just so that it doesn't bump into anything, and it just makes installing it a little bit easier. So you're gonna wanna slide this clamp over so you have a little bit of space to work with, and then you're gonna wanna pop this hose over this hose. All right, so now you're gonna wanna take the pipe that we installed the MAF sensor into, and again, the arrow's facing that way, so you're gonna want the arrow to remain facing towards the engine and not towards the filter. And we're gonna take it and we're gonna slide it in like that. And then you're gonna also wanna have your filter handy. You're gonna slide this back a little bit. Get your filter. Make sure that the clamp is facing upwards so it's easier for install. Put your filter in there and then slide this pipe into the filter. All right, so now you're gonna take another one of your 103/95 clamps, slide it over this end of the silicone pipe, and then you're gonna wanna slide the silicone tube over this piping. Just a little note, you're gonna wanna make sure you have your clamp facing upwards just so it's easier to tighten when it comes to that time. So next you're gonna wanna take all your sensors. So we're gonna start with the MAF and we're gonna connect that. Then you're gonna wanna take this vacuum line and connect it to the CNC fit. And now we're gonna wanna tighten down all of our clamps. We're gonna start with the filter and work our way back. Now the driver's side is complete. We got our driver's side arm intake installed here. And now we're gonna move on over to the passenger side. All right, so now you're gonna wanna take your passenger side hose and you're gonna wanna slide your 89/81 clamp. The way you want it oriented is to have the is to have the clamp facing this way so that it's easier to access when you go to install it. So this is just going to go right in like that. Passenger side is going to be just about the same as the driver's side. You're still going to want to line up this bottom with the plastic intake duct that's down here. So you're going to take it and you're going to just slide it in. And also you're going to make sure this hole is lined up with the hole right there. That's where your bolt is going to go through. So as you can see, I've got my bolt poked through the little hole right there. So the secret to doing this, it's a little bit tricky, but you're going to want to put the bolt in with the washer first, and then you're going to want to put the heat shield over. So I already have the bolt in there, so now I'm going to take the bolt and I'm going to slide it back like that and just put the heat shield over, get the hole nice and lined up, and then I'm going to pop my bolt through. So then once it's like that, you can then take your nut and just tighten it down. Our nut, and we're just going to tighten this down on here. You're going to hold the bolt with your finger and then just finger tighten this nut, and then you're going to grab your wrench. All right, so this is a 10mm bolt, so I'm just using a socket. I don't actually have the ratchet attached to it, but I'm just tightening this down, and then I'm going to take a 10mm wrench and just really tighten it down. So now we got our passenger side MAF sensor installed on this passenger side pipe. So as again, you can see the arrow there pointing that direction. So the arrow is going to point towards the engine away from the filter. So now you're going to take your 103/95 clamp and you're going to slide it over your silicone pipe that you installed on the passenger side. Then you're going to take your aluminum passenger side pipe, put it inside your silicone tube. Again, arrow facing towards the engine. And then you're going to take your air filter, set it inside here, and then take your aluminum pipe and put it through your heat shield. Alright, so we've got it fed through for the most part. Now we're going to take this and just push it the rest of the way through so that it's fed into our filter here. So now you're going to want to take a super extended socket, and it's going to be a 12mm deep socket on the end, and you're just going to want to reach down into where you put that first clamp on and just crank it to about 8 foot-pounds. You're just going to want to reach your socket in and then start tightening it down. So you're going to want to move on to your next clamp. It's also going to be a 12. This is going to be the second clamp you just installed on the passenger side. You're just going to want to tighten this down, again about 8 foot-pounds. Just till it's about hand tight. Alright, so next we're going to tighten down the clamp that's on the filter here. It's going to be a 7mm. So you're just going to want to tighten this down. Alright, so now you're going to want to make sure you reconnect the passenger side MAF sensor. You don't want to forget that. And now you're basically done installing the ARM S55 intake. The next step is just going to be buttoning back up the carbon fiber strut brace and putting the engine cover back on. So that wraps up our S55 intake install. So with this intake, you're going to notice you're going to have more turbo spool, more turbo noise, and just overall more performance because you're getting more air into your turbo system. So now we're going to give you some sound clips just so you can hear what this intake makes your car sound like. We personally think that the sound improvement is drastic and it makes a crazy difference on intake noise. So let's get that started.